Welcome to My Modern Myth. I'm Eric, and today we're going to be talking about connecting with passion outside of things like your vocation or what you're mainly focused on, and the reason we need this, maybe a little bit of how to find it. It's a big topic, so I won't be getting into all of those details. So one of the first things we need to talk about is why. And before we get into why, we'll take a little time to talk about what a passion is. You know, this is something more than a hobby. This is something that feels like it stirs your spirit. It keeps you coming back even though things are challenging. And I'm not saying that it's week after week. Sometimes there's gaps of years in between these things. Sometimes it's something that's always been in the back of your mind since you were a kid, that for whatever reason you grew out of it. The world said it wasn't something that was responsible for you to pursue because you had better reasons to spend your time elsewhere. Something prevented you from doing it. Maybe it was self-judgment, any number of reasons, but it was there. Then it wasn't for a long period of time. Or it can be something that's more recent that you've been engaging with, but you take a month off here, a week off here, a year here, 5 days here, 6 weeks here, and you just never quite get that consistency. These are passions because we're willing to keep coming back to this thing over and over, regardless of what happens. A hobby is something that serves us for a little bit of time and then we move on from it. And those are valuable, but that's not what we're talking about. That will come in at the very end of this conversation. How hobbies and exploration are a part of this. Otherwise, how are you going to find your passion if you don't explore? There's this concept in initiation that is called enactment. And that's where you're trying on different hats, exploring to see what works and what doesn't. Because conceptually, anything can work for you and anything can't, depending on how you tell yourself a story about that thing. Reality is you have to try the thing. You have to put yourself in environments where you can see if it's for you. You can't say acting isn't for you if you've never tried to even role play or take that risk and find the joy or find this isn't for me nature of every single thing we do. So why do we need passions and ways of connecting outside of that vocation that we've worked so long to achieve, that role we've developed? I mean, this also includes being a stay-at-home parent. This includes being an athlete. This includes being a musician, a doctor, a lawyer, a nurse. It doesn't matter what the vocation is where you are a professional in it. We still need things outside of that hold space and hold passions for us, because there's not really one environment that can meet all of those needs. And sometimes we can't be consistent in it. And that's what we'll get to next. But right now, let's talk about why we need to get out of those areas. I learned a lesson a long time ago about dogs and how attack dogs for the police force and military, they know how to attack. They can go hindbrain to very violent action, but they can also reverse that and get out of that mindset and go back to being a dog. Almost within a snap of a finger. There's these things called outs, which is a command that trained dog, that trained attack dog, is keen on hearing. So they go into aggression, they're attacking, they hear the out command. Might take a couple shouts because they're so hindbrain, but when they hear it, they let go and they revert back to calm. Or, they might be in a high energy state, but they're not going to attack mindlessly. So they have an out. We need an out. We don't want to be so stuck in whatever it is we're involved in that our world is consumed by this thing and we don't have a way to step out of it. Because I can guarantee you that in your lifetime, in your career, in your home, wherever you focus most of your time, you're going to be disappointed. You're going to feel like you're failing. You're going to feel like you're not enough, and you have to go find other areas that stir your spirit in a new way to be filled up so you can go back into those environments with more balance, with more clarity. And sometimes that clarity is going to make you want to pivot and leave and to do a different career or to pursue something new. That's okay. There isn't a precise goal in this process. These passions outside of your function in life, your vocation in life, are simply clarity bringers so that you can make these decisions, so you can have the pause, so you can then pivot and pursue the same thing in a new direction or something new in a simple direction. So if you're finding yourself reactive, you need an out. You need to get away from that situation. Sometimes it's quick, sometimes it's brief. Sometimes, our passion is movies. It's comedy, it's laughter, it's art. And you can take a 10-minute retreat into those things to get yourself that balance. that is an out. For me, an out is jujitsu. That's much more structured. It's much more time consuming than a 5-minute video on YouTube to quick get myself out of a funk. But it is also one of those things. Music is another one of those things. And I'll get more into that as we go. But these are things that I go to that allow me to out myself mentally from the chaos that is starting to build up and create pressure inside myself that leads to reactivity and trauma responses and being easily triggered, or whatever word you want to talk about, where your reactivity is so hair trigger that anything can set you off. Another concept is breathe in, breathe out. There's this dance between active and passive. It's polarity, it's in emotions, it's in our daily action, it's mind and body. So when we look at it from this perspective, if our vocation is calling us to be very heady, very intellectual, very cerebral, we need to find a place to disconnect and just flow, to go along with things, not to be so structured. And if we can't find that, we're going to be so strung up in this cerebral space that we're going to be missing out on a section of life that we need. It doesn't have to be equal to be balanced. It's both and, not either or. If you're physical all the time, if you're an athlete, you need to find ways to get mental, to engage that mind. Because if you're using your mind and not your body, unbalanced. If you're using your body and not your mind, stimulating them both, unbalanced. You're not going to be writing the best life story possible. So athletes have to get reflective. They have to get still. They have to recover. They have to feel things on occasion. They can't just be all go, go, go and no slow, slow, slow. Because if you start to run, eventually you'll outrun your problems, or you think you will, until that moment comes where you're injured, you're sick, the gym closes and you can't go, you can't be with your people for whatever reason. And all of those little things that you've been running from are going to catch you, and they're going to kick in your door because you haven't taken time to sit with them, and you won't know what hit you. That's why it's important to develop these outs, these passions that are separate from our vocation or our main focus. And just like if you're active, you have to be stationary and you have to go be still. If you're still and stationary, maybe this includes working at a desk, you have to find ways to get out and move your body. If we get too constricted, our world becomes too stationary, and anything that moves that body is outside of homeostasis is too much. And we're going to start to protect that laziness. We won't see it that way. We'll just look at things as too difficult to do, and we'll convince ourselves that we're correct. So we have to continually put ourselves in places to work our body, to train our body. And it's hard to do that if you're not connecting that piece to a passion. And we'll circle back to that because that's a really important piece, but I want to cover this first. It's all about consistency, not progress. Now that goes in contradiction to what a lot of people will say, is that it's about slow and steady progress. Well, I believe that is true, but the bigger part of progress is the consistency that leads to progress. If we can build consistency and we can honor consistency, we're going to get progress. We can't not progress in some small way if we're consistent, unless we go out there to try to prove that to be wrong and just try to fail. But the key here, why I say consistency over progress, is because there's going to come a time where this passion or your main focus are going to be impossible. You're, like I said, sick or injured. You can't make it. The thing's closed. There's no way you can connect with it. And then you start to feel like if you miss one thing, your progress is going to be halted. But if you're consistently connecting to things outside of that main thing, you have somewhere to go to continue that process of breathing in and breathing out, that process of giving yourself an out, to disengage with that negative self-talk that comes with not being able to control what's uncontrollable. But you haven't put all of your eggs in one basket. You're aware now that there's other passions that you need to connect with, so you can go to them, and they're healthy ones. They're not coping mechanisms, because if we're not intentional here, we're going to find ways to self-soothe. Absolutely we will, but we'll have no clue we're doing it. We're just going to find some unconscious thing that we keep going to over and over because our brain's on autopilot, and we go to this thing unaware that we're doing it to self-soothe, but it works. We feel okay, then we feel miserable, but we felt okay in that moment, and there was dopamine. There was a reward from our brain to our body to do this thing that provides consistency, that provides security. And on top of it all is pain, but our brain doesn't care because it's security, it's safety. So if we give that brain something else to do, something else to look forward to because it's connected to passion, then we start to rewrite those narratives. We start to take control through awareness of our trauma responses, and we start to make different choices when those things are present. But it's very intentional. It's something we have to do. We can't just passively go through this life and expect it to get better. So in absence of your main thing, we still have something if we connect to multiple different passions. And this evolves. The things will change. And I like to call these themes that run through all of them core connectors. There isn't one sport, there isn't one book genre, there isn't one movie, there isn't one hobby that we can explore and get into, and that's going to be it for the rest of our lives. Core connectors are these things that connect multiple things together in our fundamental core. This is fundamentally who we are. This is fundamentally what we love, but it's thematic. It's not specific. And what I mean by that is I needed to move my body. Like to weight train, I like to run, and it got me going, and it was helping to heal me because I was all, drugs and alcohol. I was all coping mechanisms, trauma signs. I was all mental, story writing of terrible stories about myself, and I wasn't moving my body, and I felt that lack. So I started to do so. And I used triathlon to do it because I was curious about it. But the main reason I chose triathlon was this core connector of I like to be part of a team, but I don't like team sports. I didn't like, so I started to enjoy things like golf, things like wrestling, things that were on me to do or fail, to win or lose. Even though you're part of a team and there's a combined score thing, there's just me doing a task to the best of my ability, win or lose, I did my best. So that carries to triathlon where I wasn't anything exceptional at all, but I was doing something incredible for myself. And it was not to add to a result of a team that was expecting me to put in a good effort so we could win the day. No, it was just me racing against myself. I wasn't even good enough to be competitive. So it was literally me against the clock, me against the miles. And that was appealing to me. It gave me a goal. It gave me a fight, but it didn't rely on anybody else. It relied on me. And I didn't want to rely on anybody. And at that time in my life, that was very true, but that changes over time. So you get into this environment where it's good for you. It's meeting this core connector of, I don't want to rely on people. I just want to just be engaged in this sport, in this pursuit. Now, as time went on, Ironman wasn't very sustainable for my family and me, and I didn't really like it that much, but I was proud of myself for what I achieved. Needed something new. So what do? I go into weightlifting and I'm still training my body and I'm not really doing it for a reason. I have goals to get physically healthy, sure. So that was connecting me to that, but it was missing something. So I was looking around and ended up settling on jiu-jitsu because, well, growing up, I loved the UFC. I loved MMA fighting. I loved wrestling. I did one season in high school and figured that was a good match. I couldn't do MMA. I didn't feel it was safe because of the injuries I experienced in Iraq with the traumatic brain injury. Too many knocks to the head might become a real big issue. And I don't think that's a worthwhile risk for the pursuit of passion. Considering I'm not doing this professionally, this is supposed to be an additive to my growth journey. And so should it be for you. We're not trying to make you risk permanent damage so that you can have this outlet. It should be invigorating. It should be increasing your ability to show up in other areas of your life. And it prevents you from doing that. You have to reassess. So jiu-jitsu, it's grappling, a combat sport, and it's individual. There's a team element, and that team is bonded fiercely. But when you go to fight, to go to compete, it's you versus somebody else. You're in a team, but it's relationship. It's not about you're letting them down or you're showing up for them. You're showing up for you, they're showing up for you, and that mutual benefit is able to carry you forward. So it met those boxes. It's just on me to do the best that I can do, while I also have these friends that's going to rally around me, whether I compete or not. In class, it's competitive. I don't have to go to a tournament to feel that competitive heat because the people that I train with are very good. So I get that fight and I get that outlet. And like the dog who's trained, if they don't get to have that outlet, they become destructive. They get the energy out somewhere. And if you're not moving, the energy is coming out somewhere and it's not going to be a positive thing for you. So these passions, these connections to the passions outside of our focus, of our main intent, allow us to put that energy somewhere productive and actually can allow the energy we bring to our main focus to be even better and more refined form of energy. So you're going to start to find when you look at the things that you are passionate about, for me, music. I'm learning the guitar. I'm playing the drums, but I'm not in a band because I don't want to do that. I kind of do, but I don't. I just want to enjoy playing music right now. In film, you're on a team, you're all together, and people are relying on you, but it's in a different way. Like, I'm the director, so I'm going to take the script and I'm going to create a vision, but I'm not going to act. I'm going to help the actor act. I'm going to let them do their job. The cinematographer's going to do their job. The DP is going to take my vision and make it look the way it's supposed to. So there's teamwork. Whereas the team going against somebody else, no, this film world is a team that's going against reality to create the art that they wanted to create. And yeah, maybe they're going against critics, but not really. It's creation, and we're all on the same team. On set, we're all on the same team. We're trying to create together. We're collaborating. We're not competing. And then as a whole marketing, it's that whole side of it, I'm really hands off, which is probably why I'm not successful in film. And I probably will always have it as a hobby, as a passion that I connect to, even right here. This is me connecting with that which I love. Is my camera, it's my lights, it's the audio, it's production. So I'm still connected to it. I put that into my purpose, my mission, because I need to have it, because I love that outlet. I'm training my body because I want to be strong. I want to be capable. I want to be able to squat and pick up my kids while I can. I don't want to feel pain as I age. I want to mitigate as much of that as possible. I always want to train and know that I'm competitive. So I don't want to go easy, but I don't want to go too hard because I'm not trying to be a competitor in this arena of fighting. But these are all passions. Then I come home and I can settle in on the guitar and learn a new instrument. I can pursue these passions because I'm not trying to become a professional. I'm just trying to pursue passion because it moves my spirit. It settles my soul, or it allows the rage to get out of my soul so that I can bring more calm to the places I need to bring calm to, so I can sit and hold space with my kids when they're struggling. And I'll be honest, I don't succeed at it all the time. I still get reactive because I'm not a perfect person and I never will be. But the point of life is not perfection. It's to continually seek growth, to serve others when we make that progress so that they can grow. Without passion, this life oozes sterility, and you're not going to serve from that place. It's going to be too mundane, too drab. There's no vigor. There's no vibrance in life when you have no passion, and multiple passions, because there's going to be times where you can't engage in one versus the other, or you won't engage with it every week, but you have these others that you're touching, that you're engaging with. I don't play guitar every day. I don't play drums every day. I don't go to jujitsu every day. But every week I'm connecting to each one of those things. And sometimes it's less and sometimes it's more, but it doesn't matter because it's consistent and it's part of my life and I know how to use these tools. And if you ever engage with any of your passions and it feels forced, back off. Do something else. Sometimes it makes me go write. Sometimes it makes me go sit still and just do nothing. Sometimes I dance to music. There's a number of things that we have to explore and be open to figure out how we balance it all, how we go through it all, how we engage with it all. I can't cook, but I can food prep. I can cut vegetables so my wife can cook. I can find joy in that, and I can play music and dance to that. I can dance and sing when I'm doing laundry, when I'm doing stuff I don't care to do. It's bringing fun and passion into whatever I do to try to make it bearable so that my mind stays engaged, so it stays up. And it doesn't always work, but the more freedom you can bring into that exploration and try different things, the more you're going to find those core connectors and start to understand and assess, why do all of these things meet my need? And it's not the thing, because they're so diverse. Like, why is this and that all making me feel the same way? We'll start to analyze what the framework of each one of those things are. And that's a deep conversation. Like I say, I know that, but that's also going to be one of our classes that we have, to try and dissect what it is we love and why we love it, so we can start to find the threads. So be open. It might not work out. It might be something you need to embrace and figure out how to fit it into your life in small ways. It's consistency. It's not about doing it every day or every week. It's about knowing where we can go when we need to go there. Where are our outs? No one's going to tell us. No, we don't have these dog handlers that are going to say out. And then we're like, oh shoot, I was going way too far, way too deep into this, whatever it was. We are that voice. And we have indicators around us that can show us that we're going down that path of mania, of depression, of aggression, whatever our drive is, which again, it'll be one of them is an active way we go into anger or whatever. And one is going to be a passive depression type thing. So we vacillate between those two. And there's indicators that when we see them and we start to realize what pulls us in what direction and what the feelings are that come before it, what the environment looks like, that's our mind trying to be that dog trainer saying out, so we can go do something else and put our mind into something else so we can get out of our hindbrain, that animal brain, and get to the rational part of our brain. Because that's really the ultimate goal, is to live in there, not way down in the amygdala and the mammalian brain and the hindbrain and the reptilian brain and all that stuff. It's not easy, and that's not going to happen right away. I've been doing this for years, and I keep finding new ways and new connections. And that's what makes life fun, is the continual exploration. That's why Indiana Jones is on my Mount Rushmore of masculinity, because I might not be looking for ancient artifacts, but I'm digging into this guy that is Eric, and I'm learning so much about him, discovering so much, and so much is connected to spirit. I don't mean to say that to sound religious, because I believe we are more than just flesh and blood. And understanding that, I get to understand that I have purpose here. And it's not to be a black belt in jiu-jitsu. It's not to win a tournament. It's not to create my modern myth into this international community of people and be very successful. It's about continuing to grow, continuing to laugh, continuing to understand and seek vulnerability and be as authentic as I can, and hopefully leaving a legacy that I allowed other people to do the same. If that's 50 people or 5 million, that is just an arbitrary number. This is my passion. It's one of them. And I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep following it. I'm going to be loyal to it. And legacy is a result of loyalty. And being connected to these things helps us leave a legacy that we want to leave. So until next time, journey well, my friends.